Lone Wolf Show. Lone Wolf Show, everybody. And I have my constituents, the lovely Patricia, the lovely Monastera, coming all the way from Kansas, and we are in the lovely state of Kentucky with a very, very special guest, the magnificent, the wonderful, the water spirit infused with every undines from the earth, the lovely Reverend Lady Wolf Greenfield, everyone. How are you doing
tonight? I am doing great. How are you doing? I must say, though, before we get started, welcome aboard. Please make sure that your seatbelts are securely fastened across your waist in front of you.
Okay. Good. Check. So how have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been really good. I've been helping to establish the wave tradition. Lots more coming up. The Sea Priestess path is back. I had the honor of being one of the first high priestesses in that tradition. So there's a lot of work that we're doing, a lot of bridges that we're trying to rebuild, coming out of all the events of the past year. I've been doing a lot of writing. I've been doing a lot of teaching, doing a heck of a lot of videos. So there's a lot going on.
It seems to be a year of breakthrough.
Yeah. You said the wave tradition?
The wave tradition, yep.
The
wave tradition is basically the Sea Priestess path reborn. So no longer bound under specific traditions. It's its own tradition with its own teaching of what we like to call water shamanic spirits. So it's the Sea Priestess path that it's existed before, but now it's its own standalone tradition with its extended membership, which is really good to see.
Mm-hmm. So the wave tradition is it just wave, or is it like, does the W, the A, the V, and the E all mean something, or is it just wave?
It's just wave, as in sea wave.
Right. So it draws upon the element of, let me guess. Oh, hold on. Water.
Hell yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it draws upon the element of water. And where did that come? Where did that come from? How did that become?
Originally, it was created under the Sea Priestess path, which is part of the Corellian tradition. When Lady Stephanie Neal left the tradition, the path and her teachings on it went with her. And it was recently just turned into a brand new tradition with its own membership, with its own bylaws, with its own kind of modus operandi, away from all of the politics and everything. So it deals with healing, deals with it's a nature-based tradition that's based on the path of the books that she wrote. So following ethics, following how to sort of help each other out based on community, based on teaching, Stoic mysticism, tarot, you name it, we probably will do it.
Mm-hmm. And is the Corellian tradition, is that a form of Wicca? I mean, is that coming from Gardner?
It's different. Gardner, I don't give Gardner a lot of credit, but I will to some degree. Gardner recreated what it meant to be a witch through the eyes of what he thought would be socially and politically acceptable. The Corellian tradition is a hybrid. So and I'm trying to be very diplomatic here.
Right.
The plan for the Corellian tradition was that it would be a hybrid family-based tradition that would bleed together the Cherokee Nation and contemporary American witchcraft, away from the teachings of Gardner. I think a lot of Americans in general have issues with Gardner's views, especially when it comes to men and women to some degree. So the Corellian tradition tried to do away with all of the political aspects. And in its heyday, or when it was of a good tradition, it was very family based. It was very kind of, we're we're part Cherokee, we're part Wicca, come get to know us. But it's not strictly 100% Wicca.
Mm-hmm. So initially, when we're talking about Gardner from back in the day, there's been a lot of splits since that day, like when the traditions kind of split apart, and it just seems like in America there's just so many different splits and variations where this one goes this way, they do their own thing, and it's just kind of all over the place. So we have like all these wonderful, magical, awesome traditions like all over the place. And it's just fascinating to see firsthand, the evolution of, this contemporary witchcraft that's happening in America and then also worldwide. So that's very, very fascinating. I think I was reading in your bio, you're an author.
Yes, I am.
You're an author, right? What's your book? Tell me about your book.
Medium 365, which is still in publication, is a year-long journey into mediumship. It deals with a step-by-step guide as to how can you become a medium. How can you train your mind and your body. Years ago, when I did stage magic and illusion, one of the training tools was to really unlock the mind's power just by relaxation, meditation, focusing. And so bringing that and mixing it with mediumship together, it's a hybrid way to teach it. Usually I would never teach both at the same time, but in the book we go into it, or I go into a lot of detail about how to really control the mind, how to progressively learn more and more stages of openness. It's still in publication. It was actually released about 2 years ago. I am working on an addendum to the book. I'm also working on another book, which is on contemporary Victorian illusion. Victorian era is my go-to. It's kind of like when I learned illusion years ago, I love Victorian stage magic, so I'm specializing in that area. So my new book is in the works. It deals with Victorian magic, everything you need to know about illusion. I kind of shed the light on things like Pepper's Ghost Machine and how to not catch a bullet in your teeth. So it's kind of fun. But really with Medium 365, it was written in the year leading up to my dad's death. So I remember when we were doing the book, I was always, that was when my office used to be upstairs and when I used to be a guy. So I would always be running up and down. We'd have to carry on, stop starting, because I was always checking in on him, making sure that he was fine, only to find out that the guy was fast asleep and everything was fine. But those are the sort of memories that I have coming into the book. So it's been about 2 years. He died right when we were publishing it. I think he died the week after the book was released. Actually, yeah, it was after it was released because I had an early copy that he saw. But yeah, that's Medium 365. You can find it only on Amazon, based on the fact that I'm not a Corellian. It is no longer under Corellian Publishing. I'm very clear on that. I do have the rights to it, so you can only find it on Amazon. So definitely go check that out. It's well worth the read. Even if you're not fans of mediumship, it's a great book to learn meditation. It's a great book. I touch on tarot. I touch on the different types of candles, what they're used for, crystals, how to talk to the dead. And I don't just mean my two animals here who are totally out cold. I literally mean the dead.
Well, there's many forms of craft, and mediumship is definitely one of them.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're talking about the wave tradition of witchcraft, it's in tune with the element of water. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very fascinating. Do you think that, do you think that there's other traditions that are concerned with, like, say, the element of fire, where there's a whole family that are just like fire, or just all earth? Or
there's traditions pretty much for everything. There is a order dedicated to fire. Those are the fire dancers. There are traditions that are dedicated to it. They're more shamanic, if anything. I know that the Order of Fire Dancers, there's multiple schools of them. I know there's plenty in South America for very specific reasons, because it deals with Santeria, the idea of walking on hot coals. But in South American culture, when you walk on hot coals, and it's exactly the same with the Samoan culture, so they share the similarities, but it's to do with being able to overcome fear. So when you face heat, when you face something that can hurt you, the idea of devoting yourself to the flame is to purge everything that's held you back. With water, it deals with healing. With air, it deals with, really orders dedicated to air would be along the lines of focusing more on clairaudiency, but with fire, it's far more in depth to, okay, let's overcome things, let's purge all the negativity from you. And we see this with different traditions around the world. They have rituals where they will force you to burn everything that you've once held dear in order to move on. And there's a lot of people who view that as morally reprehensible. Obviously, some are very much a cult, and I'm not even going to touch that. Others are just, hey, if you want to join us, join us. This is what we believe. This is how we're going to roll. And, I'm very clear with people. There's a very fine line between a tradition, a religion, and a cult. Mm-hmm. And there's always warning signs for each. So when I talk to people about finding what's right for them, if you are, going to join, I don't know, the holy sanctuary of the dominant flame run by one guy who's like, I am the reincarnation of the fire spirit, that's probably a cult. But if you're going to join a tradition that has a shared consensus of, we are going to do teaching this way, we are going to kind of approach life in a certain way, then that's not a cult. It's a traditional way of living. So there are differences there. But yeah, in answer to your question, there are traditions around America which are dedicated to the elements. There's traditions dedicated to death. Santa Muerta is one of them. Right. There's the indigenous traditions, which deal with absolutely everything from tribal law to... There's an American variant of Dreamtime, which I've heard of, but I've never seen it being practiced. There's traditions dedicated to the flying spaghetti monster. I kid you not. But yeah, there's a whole mix out there. The key is really as well of when you're looking at these traditions, look at what they're teaching and look at how they approach these, because some of them are set up by people that have no idea what they're doing. So they have these big traditions now all over Facebook and social media, and then they cut, and then it's like they have no hierarchy, they have no trickle down thing of, what happens if this happens? Do we have a safety net? What happens, if somebody says something inappropriate to a woman or something within the tradition? How are we going to handle that? How are we going to talk to the press? How are we going to do outreach? So always be careful with that and make sure that you do your homework. It takes time to build a tradition, and anyone that tells you it's a 5-minute job, it's not a 5-minute job. It's more like a 5-decade job.
And you guys have questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, so my audio is a little bit in and out, so I do have to pull a little forward here. I apologize. For those that haven't got to know you yet, how did you come into the craft, and what is your history?
That's a really good question. Glad you asked that. Okay, so a little bit about me. I used to be a man. Originally, born in the UK. I've traveled the world. At a young age, I trained as an illusionist, but I've always, from my mother's side, I inherited her mediumship. But I was always fascinated in illusion, fascinated in mentalism. And as a kid, I would always do local town kind of magic shows where I would do very basic illusion tricks. I spent most of my life working on farms, working with rescue animals, working wear different types of pets. But I've always been focused on the historic mysticism. When I got into the craft, that was back in the UK. I joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which is still, it's not as big in the UK as it used to be. I mean, mainly they had to restart the whole order, and it's still growing. From there, I began my career online. I joined Witchvox, which many pagans did. Witchvox was one of the biggest standalone social media platforms of its generation. From there, I heard about the different traditions that were out there. And for whatever reason, and looking back at it now, I don't even know how it all happened, but I joined the Corellian tradition, and I left that maybe almost 5 months ago. But yeah, I've always been involved in the craft. When people ask me about witchcraft and they want to learn to be a witch, I just simply tell them, yeah, but I'm not going to teach you. And they give me this look like, and I have to explain it. Witchcraft is a way of life. It is not something that you can just wear as a badge. It is a practical way of living. But it isn't for everyone. You have to have a certain dedication, a certain passion for it. You can't just wake up and one day I'm going to be a witch because all my TikTok friends told me I'm going to be a witch. It's a permanent thing. And I think there's far too much leniency with other traditions where they accept people who have that 5-minute desire to be in the craft. I'm in my 40s. I've been a witch for what feels like generations, but it's actually decades. But my family was always involved in it. Their family before them was always involved in it. I was always the joke of my mother's side, not so much my dad's side, but my mother's side, because I was always doing stage magic. I was always doing like simple things like mass hypnosis or shock induction, which is one of my favorites. I haven't done it in a while. But that's when you could walk up to somebody and just induct them without them even knowing it, which is slightly, these days, because of ethics, you can't really do that anymore. I joined the Magic Castle in California a couple of years. Actually, it was about 20 years ago. I haven't really done anything with them. I'm kind of like there. Kind of like drives them nuts. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I'm a practicing witch. After I left the Corellian tradition, which, I mean, I'm very open with how I feel about that tradition. I left on neutral terms. I took the rights to my book with me. I don't really harbor any kind of judgment or anything towards them. I only joined the Corellian tradition, I think, because I couldn't. I mean, think about it now. I joined because I couldn't find a tradition that was kind of established when I was looking to join one. So I think that was a mistake that many people have with religions, and everybody falls for the same thing. That they kind of settle for something, and it turns out that what you settled for was in fact what you were worried about. In other words, I had always suspected it was going to be it never used to be, but I had always suspected that there were issues there, and it just took me years. I think I joined that in 2015. It's about 2015, because that's when I was still doing my culinary degree.
My question is, who is your craft inspiration? Who do you look up to in the craft?
Oh, that's a really good question. Never asked that of a Hermetic magician. No, I'm a devotee of the teachings of Solomonic magic. So my specialty, or actually, if anything inspired me, it would be probably the system that was developed by King Solomon the First and the structure developed by King Solomon III. We don't talk about King Solomon II. He's a bit of a hothead. I mean, he's the reason why Solomon has a bad rap. But no, there are 3 kings of Solomon. And King Solomon I created the system, developed the system of stargazing, of what really would become known as the craft. King Solomon III developed the teaching system, so developed the idea of how the neophytes and acolytes, etc., would dress, how they would do ritual. And so, yeah, those are my 2, or really 3 inspirations.
As far as the wave tradition goes, where is that particular tradition at now? What's the criteria if a seeker comes and wants to join that tradition?
Everyone's welcome, as long as you don't bring any BS with you. Sorry to almost swear there. No, there's no real criteria other than an open mind. You know, do you want to learn the way of the sea priest or priestess? You know, are you going to take, are you, it's a very open tradition, and it's designed to welcome people without any BS, without any kind of behind the scenes shenanigans. It's very transparent. As for where we are still developing the structure. I'm working on the website. I'm slightly behind on that, but we are working on the website. We have a Facebook group. Lady Stephanie O'Neill is very, she's working overtime trying to get all of the classes and all of the membership reinitiated. You know, so if you've been a sea priestess or priest before, you know, obviously finish your training. We do follow the same structure, kind of. We have the degree system, but it's slightly different from what you've seen with, let's say, the Corellian tradition or anything else. So that's kind of where we are. We are on social media, so we do have Facebook. The Facebook page is open. You know, obviously I can send the link to you guys later. As far as the web page, it is under construction. It's coming. But on our Facebook group, right now we have a whole ton of information. So we've got everything you need to know, from the sabbats to how to prepare for Samhain, to what the Sea Priestess path is all about, the code of ethics, you know, how we hope that people will treat each other. And really the big caveat is, you know, just treat each other nicely. That this is a no BS, no behind, you know, backstabbing, or no kind of, you know, everybody's out to power play type thing. So that's where we are. We are still growing. You'll see us posting also with what we like to call the Sana Alliance, which is an alliance on Facebook which welcomes all traditions, which I thoroughly recommend people to join. Sana deals with helping others to create their own personal traditions within certain criteria. You know, how are you going to design your own tradition? It's just the wave grew out of that one, out of what used to be the Sea Priestess path, but we're still very much tied to everything. We're involved in everything.
So you said Sana?
Sana, S-A-N-A.
S-A-N-A. What does that stand for?
It's to do with spirits and animals and nature-based alliance. So It's an open-ended. I'm just gonna be. I have to be honest. It's an alliance of people who were affected. I think that's the nice I'll use the word affected. The alliance is made up of everyone that got. And I have to choose my words here. You know what? I'm not going to choose my words carefully. It was made up of everyone that was screwed over by the Corellian tradition. Everyone that left. Everyone that that could not ethically stay. We also welcome the members of the Corellian tradition, but it's really everybody that wants to go their own path for their own ethics, right? And so when the split happened, there was a lot of yelling, a lot of people who were saying a lot of things on Facebook. When everything calmed down, Lady Stephanie took back control over the membership hub, which used to be the original tradition hub, and we just she renamed it the membership hub because it's just a hub of people. That's one of the oldest groups, I think, on Facebook. One of the oldest groups. Mm-hmm. From there, we decided that we needed basically like an alliance, people that were focused on the historic mystical path, that wanted to either branch out and find their own traditions or start their own traditions or get support or just come together as groups of people just to chill. So within that group, it's the same idea. If you're going to be a part of the alliance, just drop the BS, drop the politics at the door, right? We're done with that, right? And it's very open. There's always going to be people that post interesting things that they shouldn't be, but that's life. But it's not as bad as it was when the split was ongoing, when there was a lot of mud being thrown around. I tell you, I was even involved in that. And it's taken quite a while for everybody just to simmer. I mean, there's still kind of rumblings going on. You see that with the alliance as well. There's still this feeling, there's kind of like an uneasy feeling. Everything's cool, but it's kind of like people are like, is this too cool? Is something going to happen? So that's the alliance. Mm-hmm. And again, the wave is part of that.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually pretty beautiful, where you're reaching an extension to everyone to, just say, hold on a minute, man. Can we just chill? And I think it's very interesting to watch the evolution, of what is contemporary witchcraft. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure you can agree, is that with this huge explosion in the craft, in America, in the United Kingdom, worldwide, you have so many seekers, so many people that want to learn the craft.
Oh, hell yeah.
But there is just a limited amount of people to teach the craft. And then you have elements of the blind leading the blind. You have people and you have legitimate people that can bestow their teachings and traditions over, but they're numbered. There's only a certain amount. Now, when these leaders come in, they start using that knowledge to become dictators and of that kind of caliber. What happens is it just becomes soured and painful.
That's exactly what happened with the Corellian tradition. Is that, I mean, let's just be honest, it's I think, when we look at everything that happened, the main victim here is witch school. Now, I'm not anymore, but I was a very staunch defender of witch school.
Monica, weren't you a member of witch school?
I was.
Yes, I was a member of witch school. I'm a lifetime member. I think I purchased it back in like 2004. I became a lifetime member. So, I didn't go far beyond that, but yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you're talking about victims, right? So witch school's just been left. They haven't updated the courses. And so there's a lot of information that should be taught that isn't taught. And it's very hard to bring students in. And then, I mean, witch school started out great. So I'm not going to throw any shade and its creators from that aspect. It was a great project. Right. Started out great, thousands of students enrolled, brilliant, right? So you have countless classes, countless courses. You have the degree, Wicca degree programs. Okay, so you have a mentorship program. And then over the course of time, based on how the finances were, what happened was everything at witch school was just left. And instead of focusing on academia, its creators went into, let's call it for what it is, showmanship. So you have these big kind of displays all over social media, like, raising money and doing all of these fundraising schemes and doing all these big public events and starting projects. Each of those projects costing a lot of money to run, even though they never go anywhere. And at the same time, witch school suffers. And part of the reasons why I left as a mentor there wasn't because I did it out of spite or I did it because for whatever reason. It was because ethically, I couldn't see how we could, with a straight face, maintain a school where students aren't being told what's going on and the information that is there is outdated and we're not teaching what we should be teaching. For example, some of the courses don't even cover what contemporary witchcraft, is. It's all kind of very stoic and some of the information is just wrong. In one of the classes, which deals with the world's religions, goes into Solomonic magic. I read that passage and I'm like, most of the information is incorrect. Not only is it outdated, but it makes no logical sense as to why you would even upload that as a course. Then there's all these requirements that the degree students have to go through and nobody's helping them. Even the mentors are kind of told, okay, well, that you can do this, but then don't do that, and then do this, and then don't do that. I was a mentor. I know the game. And what was happening was those students who are in the degree program, they weren't being processed. Nobody was talking to them. So we have people who are in first degree, second degree, right? Nobody was walking them through the final processes of what they needed to do. And so those students just up and left. They kind of went stagnant over months and months and months. Then on top of that, when the split occurred, witch school was just left by the wayside until many of us were starting to say, okay, it needs to be redone. And then now look, wow, it's being edited. But still, all of the students that were still very loyal to the brand are like, what are we learning here? If everything's outdated, none of the courses have been touched in years. What the heck? What's the point of spending this money monthly or a lifetime, whatever the situation is, if you're not getting anything in return? And if you do get things in return, it's like 1 or 2 word emails saying, well, click on the link and do the test, or I don't know, contact your mentor. Yeah, but if you contact your mentor, they're told to give you very specific answers. And witch school doesn't have a lot of mentors now because everybody left. And then on top of that, what the students were never made aware of is all of the infighting and all the BS that happened within the tradition bled into the school. And so now you have all of these mentors and deans and people who are responsible of overseeing and helping students. They couldn't even do their job. And so everything was connected. And so, yeah, it affected the craft and it affected that aspect of the craft. And I think when it comes to teaching witchcraft, we owe our students a lot more than that. We owe them a better platform, and a platform where the teachers actually care. Witchcraft is one of the kind of, it's like the redheaded stepchild of the world's religions, because it's highly specialized and you need the right teachers. Just because you're a first, second, or third degree doesn't really mean anything. You have to be a very specific teacher to work with people and to show that sense of compassion. You can't just be a teacher of witchcraft and just tick boxes. You have to make sure that you go the journey with those students. Right. And that's not what witch school turned into. It turned into business. Sorry, I mean, that's just my rant on that. But it's, I was very passionate about witch school. I was always streaming over on Witch School, the official page. And I have been removed from that page, obviously, because, there are a lot of people out there that find some of my streams are counter to what they would like to teach. And that's fine. I don't harbor grudges. But when you do things like that, you shoot yourselves in the foot, because you lose content creators that have put hours into developing your brand for you. And then you do that. It's kind of like any legitimate business would see that as a very bad move. But not with the creators of Witch School, who thought it was a genius idea.
Well, that's very unfortunate that, that they had students that were wanting and hungry enough to learn
Yeah.
and weren't really able to do that. Like that
No.
just, it baffles me that you would create a school and not be teaching and mentoring and being able to work one-on-one with your students.
It's about money.
Yeah. And that being said, do you think that maybe your tradition might start something like that, your own school, maybe one day down the road?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of interest in the thing with the sea priestess path, or the sea priest path, which however you want to call it. It ties into things like what the Temple of Sedna was originally all about, honoring the sea and honoring that kind of bounty. So yeah, we do teaching. We have an established curriculum, an established way of learning. So absolutely, I mean, anybody could create a school if you have the knowledge, the time, and I think more importantly, the compassion for your students. But you have to also develop the brand. What's your school going to do? What's the name of the school? Are you going to have paid memberships? You're not going to have paid memberships. From those paid memberships, what guarantees can you give to your students that you're actually going to be working with them? Teaching is always you should always be with your students. You shouldn't just be doing it as a business. But yeah, in answer to your question, yeah.
What do you think makes a good teacher?
I would say what makes a good teacher: a balanced mind and an ethical and a very open sense of compassion for everyone and ethics. A good teacher can never be someone who says, I know everything. I'm in my 40s. I've been in the craft all my life. I'm an illusionist. But do I know everything? No. Will I ever say I know everything? No. But there are teachers out there who get, like doctorates and all of this, who think, oh, well, I'm a doctorate now, so I know everything. No, you don't. I think what makes a good teacher is somebody that's humble enough to say they don't know anything. They don't know everything, but their subject that they are studying with you, they learn with you. They understand what you're going through. And I think what makes a good teacher is somebody that wants to learn with their students and to see those students succeed, not see those students as a threat, or, like a possible, oh my gosh, they're going to come and take over my position one day. And there's a lot of paranoid people out there who say, I can teach you this, I can teach you this. But then the second you get close to their level, it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to take over. And suddenly kind of, they distance themselves or do whatever else. So what makes a good teacher, I think, also relies on just being humble enough to want to give others your time and your expertise for absolutely no reward. If I teach people, I don't want a reward. If I help members of my community, I always tell people I don't want money. I'm not helping you because I need something from you. I'm helping you because it's the kind of person I am. When I teach people, it's not because I want money from them. It's because I enjoy teaching. I enjoy sharing my knowledge. I'm not going to say, well, that was 5 minutes. You owe me $5,000. Yeah. But we have people that do that. So yeah, and answer your question, there's lots of things that make up a really good teacher. And I think another thing that makes a good teacher is learning to always be as transparent with your students and to be as open and upfront. There are people that come to the craft thinking that they can turn into things, or I don't know, do the big Hadouken fireball from Street Fighter, or do the weirdest things that you see online. And I think part of what we do as teachers should be to kind of hem things in and to sort of say, okay, that's what you think witchcraft is. That's not what witchcraft is. This is what witchcraft is. And you see that kind of change in their eyes when they get it. They're like, oh, so you can't teleport into random places and, I don't know, do the whole Hadouken fireball attack and all of that. And then they want to learn what it really is. So I think you should always be transparent with people and more importantly, just be ethical.
Indeed. I have another question. So where can our viewers find you? I know you do some lives that they can catch. So if you can tell them where they can find you if they want to hear more.
I can be found here on Facebook. I mean, I can be found here on Facebook. I also am on YouTube, Hunter Rev Ravenwolf. So I'm very easy to find. So I'll post on my socials in a little bit. I try to stream every day. You can find me over on the membership hub or on my personal Facebook page, Rev Wolf Greenfield. Unless I got the name wrong. Probably did. I am actually changing my legal name soon. But you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me on X. Even though I don't really do too much on X. I'm still not used to calling it X. I'm really not. I grew up with Twitter. I don't know why he changed it to X. It's like X-Men. Elon Musk is an X-Men. I knew it.
Is it the social media formerly known as Twitter?
It's like Prince, formerly known as.
And we can also find you very soon on Witchcraft TV. Is that right?
This is true. I am coming to Witchcraft TV. I am actually working on an entire new brand for that. So yes, you will find this lady on Witchcraft TV. And Witchcraft TV is brand new. So stay tuned. We got lots more coming your way.
I'm still checking my seatbelts for that.
I can't believe I burst out laughing. Okay, let's try that one more time. Good evening. Welcome aboard. Please make sure your seatbelts are fastened. And please make sure your arms and legs are securely fastened during the vehicle at all times. Emergency exits can be found here, here, and here. In the event of loss of cabin humor, oxygen masks will descend from above your head. Please fit the masks over children, women, slaves, and everything first. In the event of an emergency crashing, you might experience some pain, screaming, and eventually death followed by rebirth. Thank you for your time and patience, and have a nice flight.
Death followed by rebirth. Right here on the Lone Wolf Show. Lady Ravenwolf Greenfield in the house, priestess from the Wave tradition. You can check her stuff out on Facebook and her own show on Witchcraft TV coming soon. I'm the Lone Wolf. My two co-hosts, the lovely Patricia and Moonisteria, thank you so much for coming on the Lone Wolf Show. Hope to have you on soon again. And blessings to all, and blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.